This bill requires that schools teach ethnic studies starting in kindergarten, and I am against this. You might ask, why in the world would a Black person speak against ethnic studies? Because not everything that sounds good is good.
What it do, family? The other day I was having lunch with a colleague slash fellow student, and he's first generational American. His parents are from Ghana, and he was born in New York, raised in Utah. And he approached me while we were sitting at the table with the question. And he was saying, "Hey, do you listen to what's called the new black media?" And I'm like, "Absolutely." And he start asking me about certain people, and I'm like, "Yeah, they're really good to listen to, this, that, and the third." And then he turns and he asks me about Tariq Nasheed. And before I could even answer his question, which was, "So what do you think about Tariq?" He came and cut me off with, "I really don't like that brother. I really don't like that brother because, he really be disrespectful to my people for no reason. And, he loves to call us tethers and this, that, and the third." So at that point in time, it was on me to have a real conversation with this person. So I started really talking to this person. I asked him, I said, "Well, why do you think that Tariq be kind of going so hard on people from your continent?" And one of the things that the young brother said was, "Who knows? For all I know is that he's jealous." So me and that brother had a good 20, 30-minute conversation on people from his continent and the way a lot of them tend to think Black Americans aren't nothing, and they don't tend to believe that them being here is even a direct line from what the Black Americans here has opened up for them. As we're having this conversation, more and more he's becoming more and more aware that he's not going to win that conversation. Because no matter what he told me Tariq said to any of the people that he heard, he could not justify what those people were saying to Tariq that made Tariq go off on them. Or anybody in the new black media, because Tariq isn't the only person that deals with them. And I've even did a video on this as well when we had a caller call in to Michi's live. But I digress. I say that to say this. After talking to this man, one of the things that I told him was this: look, if you're going into law, then you need to really study the history of Black Americans in this country. You can't go into law believing what you're being told about Black Americans. And even though you were born here, you were born in Utah, away from a lot of the Black society. So the brother never really saw any real Black people, and he's admitted to it. He had to tell me that I was absolutely correct there. But when I explained to him that tethers are people who look like us, who are willing so quickly to undermine our interest as Black Americans, and I started explaining to him how that affects not just us, but our children and our children's children, well, it was like a light bulb went off in his head. And then he showed me this video.
My name is Kafi Manska. I'm an attorney, wife, and mom to 3 boys, 2 of which are in high school. This bill requires that schools teach ethnic studies starting in kindergarten, and I am against this. You might ask, why in the world would a Black person speak against ethnic studies? Because not everything that sounds good is good. The definition of ethnic studies right there in the statute says that there's a connection between a person's race and their stratification. The bill tells kids of color that they are stuck in a caste system based on their race. It also tells kids, and I quote, that institutions chronically favor white people and disadvantage people of color. I'm sick of everyone denying the enormous progress we made in this country, acting like it's 1930. We used to have a race-based system. We got rid of it, and now you're all trying to bring it back. This curriculum will not help kids of color succeed. All it does is remove any reason to try. And I repeat that, it removes any reason to try. And this is not some theoretical crap. This stuff happens. These messages are very harmful. Just last month in my high schoolers band class, the teacher took 20 minutes at the beginning of class to talk about anti-racism. He told the kids to look around. And then he said the black boys in the school would likely not live to retirement because of racism and the police. Another furious kid of color recorded this conversation, and so I was able to hear it for myself with my own ears. If this law is passed, teaching this hopelessness to kids of color will be mandated starting in kindergarten. And I can see why you white proponents of this bill might support it. It's not your kids being told that they can't succeed, and you get to shed some of your white guilt in the process. But you legislators of color, how can you? You made it despite the invisible boogeyman of systematic racism. You were voted in by a majority of white people. You hold some of the most powerful positions in this state. Yet you want to tell my kids and other kids of color that they can't succeed? It's shameful, it's terrible. I ask that you please vote against this bill. Thank you for this opportunity.
So much to unpack in that 2-minute, 13-second video, but we're going to get to that in a short second. When he showed me this video, one of the things that he said was, man, I was wondering, like, this is weird. It's really weird because I study history and I understand that racism does exist in this country. I grew up in this country, so I do know racism exists. This, that, and the third, yada, yada, yada. And in my head, I'm like, okay, that's good. You do know that racism exists. However, are you aware of how Africans are used against Black Americans in order to undermine our interest? If not, you can understand that racism exists, but you still don't see the tactics of the racists, excuse me. So he started like really taking his time, but he was coming along. He was like, you know what? Absolutely. It's kind of like, you know, speaking about Kamala Harris and how they keep saying that she's black, but, you know, she was very detrimental to black people in California. I said, exactly. I'm from California, so that I know personally. So you can understand now what we're speaking about. And he said, absolutely. He said, now I'm not so mad at the word tether. He said he thought it was just a way to really disrespect people from the African continent. And I said, you mean like the word Akata disrespects Black Americans? Yeah, but let's jump into this video again and let's break it down a little bit because, you know, I feel it's very necessary that we actually listen to what she was saying once again and go piece by piece.
My name is Kofi Monska. I'm an attorney, wife, and mom to 3 boys, 2 of which are in high school.
I'm wondering what kind of attorney she is. I'm getting whiffs of a Kamala Harris over here. Yeah, that smells like Kamala to me.
This bill requires that schools teach ethnic studies starting in kindergarten, and I am against this. You might ask, why in the world would a black person speak against ethnic studies?
No, my question is, why in the hell is a black immigrant speaking out against ethnic studies? Because the truth of the matter is this, you wouldn't see no black immigrants coming out speaking against the Holocaust. Oh, I don't want my children to learn about the Holocaust too early. Or the Japanese internment camps or anything else in history. Unless it's tied to black Americans' slavery. Unless it's tied to black Americans' Jim Crow segregation. Unless it's tied to black Americans in any way.
Because not everything that sounds good is good.
Oh, now she just sounded like Reverend Amos Flip-Flop Brown. It's just a trick bag. It's a hat trick. It's a hat trick.
The definition of ethnic studies right there in the statute says that there's a connection between a person's race and their stratification. The bill tells kids of color that they are stuck in a caste system based on their race. It also tells kids, and I quote, that institutions chronically favor white people and disadvantage people of color.
See, people like this want you to ignore reality. Their delusion is what they go off of. They don't have any facts. They have delusion of grandeur. They have Eurocentric mindsets and delusion of grandeur, okay? If you haven't read the book The Black Tax, The Cost of Being Black in America by Sean Rochester, I might be murdering his name, but please forgive me. Go and pick up that book. It will tell you how Black Americans, till this day, and it gives you a stream timeline of Black Americans paying 10 times more in some cases than white Americans for the most average things, the most average situations, housing loans, car loans, the most average things. Okay? Oh, across the board, systemically, Black Americans spend more money on things that white Americans spend less money on due to the policies put in place by America. And if you were born in America, if you were raised in America with the right influences, you would understand and know that. But of course, you wasn't. You was raised under the wing of a white supremacist, more likely, whether it was your parents or whether it was somebody that you admired in college or someone took a liking to you in college. You was raised under the wing of white supremacy. So I expect you to say silly stuff like this. I expect you to try to go against our personal interests and the interests of our children and the future generations of our children because you're a tether. And that's what tethers do.
I'm sick of everyone denying the enormous progress we made in this country, acting like it's 1930.
Can somebody please explain to me who the hell is we in this situation? Because it damn sure ain't us, foundational Black Americans, ADOS, or whatever you want to call yourself. It sure damn ain't us blended in with them because, god dang it, they didn't get here until after we fought for them to come here. After we fought for them to come here. So who the hell is this we in this situation? Who the hell is we in this situation?
We used to have a race-based system. We got rid of it, and now you're all trying to bring it back.
Again, just who in the hell is this we? Who is this we? If we, the people who've been fighting this fight all this time, is saying that this system still exists, then who are you, the person that we fought for to come to this country, to come here years later and say, we got rid of it, it no longer exists?
This curriculum will not help kids of color succeed. All it does is remove any reason to try. And I repeat that. It removes any reason to try.
And you only hear this argument when you are talking about the systematic oppression of Black Americans in this country. You only hear this argument when we're talking about the history of Black Americans in this country. You only hear this argument when we're talking about Black Americans in this country in general. You don't hear this argument for no other group, period, point and blank. You don't hear this argument for no other group, period, point and blank. Especially, she don't go in talking about, I don't want my children knowing about apartheid. She's not going in talking about she don't want her children to know things that's going on in Africa. But, you know, American history, Black American history to be more specific, oh, that's a problem. That's teaching our children that they are inferior. Yeah, these are the people that we deal with on a daily.
And this is not some theoretical crap. This stuff happens. These messages are very harmful. Just last month in my high schoolers band class, The teacher took 20 minutes at the beginning of class to talk about anti-racism. He told the kids to look around. And then he said the black boys in the school would likely not live to retirement because of racism and the police.
Okay, so where's the lie? Because we can actually prove with statistical evidence that black men and black boys, black people in general, are literally targeted more than any other race in this country by those race soldiers you call the police. So where's the lie?
Another furious kid of color recorded this conversation, and so I was able to hear it for myself with my own ears. If this law is passed, teaching this hopelessness to kids of color will be mandated starting in kindergarten. And I can...
Another furious child of color? I'm pretty sure it was your coon-ass child that you've been teaching to listen for those things. I'm pretty sure it was your child that did that. I'm pretty sure it wasn't no other child of color in that room who felt disrespected by that because they didn't see situations that didn't happen in this country. I'm pretty sure it was your coon-ass child.
I can see why you white proponents of this bill might support it. It's not your kids being told that they can't succeed.
So now she's trying to make it about the white people who actually fight to keep our history out of these schools at the youngest age possible. So now she's trying to say that the white folk are the people who wants it, right? Yeah, okay.
You get to shed some of your white guilt in the process. But you legislators of color, how can you? You made it despite the invisible boogeyman of systematic racism. You were voted in by a majority of white people. You hold some of the most powerful positions in this state. Yet you want to tell my kids and other kids of color that they can't succeed? It's shameful. It's terrible. I ask that you please vote against this bill. Thank you for this opportunity.
So once again, we have another tether trying to speak up against something that will benefit our future generations, our youth. But she wants to do it under the guise of protecting her children. Protecting your children from what? Being told the truth about America? Being told the truth about why black folks here have been fighting for so long? That's what it seems like to me. But this doesn't end the story. It doesn't, because earlier today at lunch, that same colleague / fellow student came back and showed me an article and asked me, did I hear about it? And he was pissed the hell off because this happened in Ghana, where his parents are from. And he knew about Kamala Harris and the things that she did in California. So he was pissed off when he showed me this video.
Kamala Harris is in Africa this week for a 3-country tour focused on economic development and security. Over 9 days, she'll meet with political leaders in Ghana, Tanzania, and Zambia.
Her travel follows other trips by senior officials to the continent as pressure to counter Chinese influence in the region grows. Laura Barone Lopez reports on the trip's historic and strategic significance.
For America's first black female vice president, a trip with deep political and personal meaning. Kamala Harris placing flowers in a women's dungeon at the Cape Coast Castle in Ghana, and walking through the door of no return, where millions of Africans were forced in chains onto ships bound for the Americas.
So being here was immensely powerful and moving.
Oh, he came back heated, like a pot of boiling water. He was so heated. He was like, how dare Kamala Harris go to my home country and then sit there and talk about how moving it was to be in the quarters where the slaves was when she was over here locking up the slaves and the descendants of slaves and this, that, and the third. And then she wanted to take it over to Ghana and the Ghanaians allowed her to do it. And I was like, yes. – Absolutely. And he was like, man, I say what you were saying, man. Yeah, these are the same type of people who go around and they just make a mockery of everything that we're trying to do, this, that, and the third, yada, 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 yada. And I said, yes, absolutely. Then he said, and why the hell did he bring two immigrant actors, one half immigrant and an immigrant actor out there, besides bringing some foundational black Americans or some black Americans or whatever out there with her, who's in politics, to have these discussions? She's trying to mesmerize the people by bringing stars and all this other stuff to sing and dance and entertain. And I said, yes, absolutely. I said, it's amazing how quickly you pick up on it when it touch close to home. Correct? He said, no, it's not like that. It's just that I saw it more that you started talking about it. And I had to cut him off. I said, no. I said, because you told me that you listened to the new black media, so I know that you've been literally hearing stuff about this. You just wanted to know what I was going to say. And what I said was absolute, just like everything you heard. But what really got to you is that now Kamala is over there doing to your folks what she did to black Americans the whole time, because she ain't never claimed to be black American. And what pissed him off the most is that they were calling, all the officials was calling Kamala Harris like the prodigal daughter has returned. They was giving her a family welcome. But one thing that they did do that is going to be a problem, and you heard this here first, when the Canadian president said that we're going to continue to work with China as well as the United States, that's not going to roll over well. The whole point of Kamala going there was to literally get them to stop their relationship with China, because China's been in there throwing billions of dollars into Africa. No matter what they say, their whole goal was literally to shut down the relationship between Africans and the Chinese. But the Canadian president said, we're not doing that. That's not going to go down well. I just want y'all to know that. Something will be happening pretty soon. And watch it. Watch it happen. Whether they get sanctioned, something happens to where they're now put on the list. Trust me, something will happen. But yeah, these tethers, they never really understand till it hits close to home. And when it hits close to home, it's too late. Because this is what we've been telling them about for so long. We've been telling them about it for so long, they want to tell us, shut up, Akata, and all that other stuff. And with that being said, family, I'm going to go ahead and end this video. The doors of the church are closed. Like, share, subscribe if you're not subscribed. Comment, let me know what you think about this. Let me know what you think, because I would love to hear from you. And I'm going to end off this video with the rest of that news article, so that you can see the depth of what's going on. Peace, family.
Speaking off script about the brutality of slavery, Harris challenged growing efforts back home to censor Black history.
It cannot be denied. It must be taught. History must be learned.
A solemn moment to recognize the past during a visit Harris says is focused on the future, specifically for women and young people.
To witness firsthand the extraordinary innovation and creativity that is occurring on this continent.
On the fastest growing and youngest continent,
How are you? Nice to meet you.
Harris met with young artists at a skate park and recording studio.
You are speaking in a way that around the globe, people hear sounds that are rooted in concepts like freedom.
Joining her were actors Idris Elba and Sheryl Lee Ralph. together to highlight the power of music to unite the global African diaspora.
And I know where my voice belongs.
Harris's trip follows the African Leaders Summit held in Washington last year.
The United States is all in on Africa and all in with Africa.
Since then, she is the 5th high-ranking administration official to visit the continent in a sweeping effort to strengthen relationships in a part of the world where Chinese influence runs deep. China has poured billions into infrastructure and development projects across Africa, including a $2 billion deal in Ghana to build roads and bridges. On this trip, Harris announced $100 million in security and conflict prevention assistance for the Western coast, but said the goal wasn't to counter China.
This trip is motivated by the importance of the direct relationship between the United States and Ghana.
And Ghana's president, Nana Akufo-Addo, made clear he would work with both nations.
There may be an obsession in America about the Chinese activities on the continent, but there's no such obsession here. But China is one of the many countries with whom Ghana is engaged in the world. Your country is one of them. Virtually all the countries of the world are friends of Ghana.
The vice president is expected to announce additional investments later this week to empower women-run businesses, enhance food security, and promote climate resilience. In Ghana, a model of democracy in the region, Harris said the two countries must continually work to preserve freedom. The vice president will also travel to Zambia, a place where her grandfather lived and where she spent time as a child.
Oh yeah, in case you didn't notice, peep out how they trying to Africanize Kamala more than she choose to even be. Yeah, that's not going to fly by our heads either. It might be a cleanup game, might be one of those little cleanup tours where they're trying to clean up a person's image. But, yeah, it kind of seems like that was more geared towards Americans, black Americans. Because she damn sure been showing her ass as the first Asian vice president. And, you know, we got elections coming up pretty soon. Yeah. Think about that. All of a sudden, she's the prodigal daughter of Africa, and she spent time in Tanzania with her grandfather and all that other stuff. Who in her family's from Tanzania, I would like to know, but neither here nor there. The doors of the church are closed. Peace and power to you.